Okay, hi everybody. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Get Intuit with Gila. I'm Gila Glassberg, and today I have Malkie Hirsch. Hi, Malkie.
Hi, thanks for
How you
having me.
doing?
Thank God.
Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. I know you're very busy and you have lots going on, so we're so happy to have you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm excited. I don't know. I just love this stuff. I love podcasts. It's a fun way to express.
And you started your own, right?
Well, I wouldn't say it was my own. My father. We do it together, but
Yeah.
it is something I really unexpectedly took a liking to. So if I have an opportunity to do it, I always, and especially for you, like, it's nice. I love getting to know new people and, speaking about different subjects and, bring it on. It's fun.
I love podcasts. Do you listen to podcasts?
Honestly, I listen to music. I have listened to podcasts like here and there, but I wouldn't say that like, I know that podcasting is like a culture.
Yeah.
It's not something I follow very, very religiously. But, once in a while, if I do come across one with people that I'm interested in, hearing what they have to say, for sure, I would do it, but nothing I do regularly.
Got it. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you, what do you do? But I know there's lots of things. So what do you do?
What do I do? Okay, so I probably around 2007, 2008 started a food blog called KissTheKoshercook, and it just basically stemmed from like a semi-identity crisis when I left my job in the city, and I started having my kids at a pretty regular pace, like every 1.5 to 2 years. Didn't give me a lot of room to like do something else like outside of Manhattan. My job was really, based mostly there because of, advertising firms, as I worked in advertising. So what I did was I quickly got my license in real estate and started this food blog because I just really immersed myself in becoming a domestic because I really wanted to just like figure out how to cook, how to bake, something I really had zero familiarity with. I didn't grow up. I, as the oldest, should have probably been the one to help my mother, but she's a little bit more of a like controlled cook, like to put things away. I'm more of like a mess when it comes to cooking. So I don't I don't do things the way that you probably would learn how to do them in culinary school, but I sort of just like started just opening a lot of books I had gotten from my wedding and different things throughout the years, and we started taking pictures on Facebook, and I post my dinner recipes every night. Some of them were family recipes, some of them were from books, and it would just like open up this dialogue with people, and it grew and grew. And then I started going on Instagram and started baking probably around 4 or 5 years ago. And it's sort of just become something that I never expected.
Like, you're really famous.
I mean, I guess in the from Instagram world, I can definitely say that I'm up there, but listen, today with these girls and what they do, it's really, it's impressive to do all that we do as from women, and all the expectations we have with, having a career, having a family, having, dinner every night on the table for your children, wearing all these hats and having all these roles and then not losing your mind. I think that's very impressive. So I just like trying my hand in different things. For me, it's more of a creative outlet. It's a fun challenge for me. People have this idea that because I post these pictures of cakes that I tried, I would say the letter cake started probably around 3 years ago. I really did it for a friend of mine who asked me to do it as a favor. And then people had this impression that I was a baker. And I get calls from people asking to order things like the day of. And I'm like, you guys don't get it. Like, I'm a mother of 5 from Woodmere. You go to Allen's. I don't know what to tell you. This is not my gig. I mean, I do it because it's enjoyable, but like, I'm sorry, you got the wrong girl here,
Right.
But I still do enjoy doing it. I enjoy, I derive pleasure from giving something to people, surprising them in a way. It could be for a birthday, it could be for a bar mitzvah. It's a beautiful centerpiece. It's definitely different than just having like a cake, So that sort of became my thing, And I hate being, you know, I don't want to be pigeonholed as one thing or the other. So, you know, changing content is always important, especially as it's any social media platform. You have to always sort of just keep things fresh and new. To be successful on Instagram, you really need to. And it's funny because recently I was watching a fashion blogger on Instagram, and I just thought it was so funny when somebody asked her, it was a Q&A she had put up, and somebody had asked her, like, how do you become as successful as you had become? She had 40,000 followers. Wow. And she's repeating herself. She goes, it's really, 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 really hard work. And I laughed first, but I thought to myself, this girl like gets free clothes all day, every day, and takes professional pictures in front of like different, like beautiful places in the city and whatever. Hard work. But you know what? The truth is, it is hard work.
Yeah.
It's hard work keeping current. It's hard work, you know, making connections with different brands. It's hard work setting up photo shoots. It's hard work then going back home and having little babies that you have to supply dinner for. It's hard work being a wife. It's hard work, you know, and people that are committed to it, and it could be committed to, like, you know, it because either they want to make money doing it, you know, via brands that are going to hire you to promote their product, which is really the way you make money doing this. Or it could be something that just feeds your creativity. It doesn't have to be one or the other reason. It could be so many different reasons, but I have, it really, I mean, it, for me, it's like runs the gamut. Like creativity, it creatively feeds my, you know, my artistic side. And also it's nice when I'm able to be compensated for my work.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, it's like the best of both worlds, basically.
Yeah, you have to know how to write. You have to know something about food photography or fashion photography. You know, if you can't hire photographers to shoot your own stuff, you have to know about styling. You have to know about hashtagging, algorithms. You have to know about doing giveaways and you know, like so many different aspects, so many different things. And then you also have to remember that you're a person and a mother and a fun person and a community member and, you know, somebody's daughter and mother and sister. It's like, you know, but it's great. It's great. If you can like make sure all those things checked off at the end of the day, we're good.
Yeah. So I think we met actually at Naomi Nachman show, right? So we were talking about this. Yeah. You didn't grow up cooking or baking.
No. Like I said before, my mother's a little bit of a control freak in the kitchen.
Right.
Take something out and she'd put it back immediately. So I something out and then leave it on the counter and forget about it, and then I would leave the room. And then I'd hear like, why is there everything all over the counter? I'd be like, oh, I was making something. And she's like, part of preparing something is you have to put it back, you know.
Right.
Not fun, you know. So it was definitely a bone of contention with us, and so that's why I was like, you know what, unless I'm out of my house in my own home, I'm gonna just sort of like put this on the back burner. I'm not doing this right now.
So were you, when you got married, were you excited to start cooking? Were you nervous?
I actually really dreaded it because I got married at 25. My husband was 26. We both had careers, and we'd get home at like 8 o'clock at night. We'd look at each other and be like, Dougie's, or you know, like there is no time to prepare when we both left the house at 7:30 in the morning and then got home at 8. But obviously your life is put on hold if you're able to financially afford to not, you know, continue with the job that you had, and you can, like, you know, plan B it. So for me, plan like real estate. And, you know, knowing that like it was okay if I didn't go back to work where I was working, and I was able to just like, you know, discover, you know, explore different things that I actually never knew about. And that one of those things was cooking and baking, you know. So
why real estate though? I'm curious.
I've always been in the sales aspect of business. I've always sort of like, I was always a phone person. I think I'm a people person. So, and I also had access to advertising because my father works. So for me, it up all those boxes. It made sense for me to, you know, and I also like, you know, if you sell a house, it's a nice substantial, you know, amount of money, as opposed to like working in an office or, you know, whatever. I was never like the kind of person that wants to be a therapist or, you know, work in PT or OT or speech. I don't really want to work with other children because I'm just having my own children. That's like enough, you know. Sure, never wanted to be an accountant because the Gordons do not know how to do math. So I just figured like real estate, let's try it, you know. And once I started doing it, I was successful and I had my own time. if I didn't want to work at it as much as I, initially started working at it, then I would take a break. It's just like, it was as hard as I worked, that would yield like my success. And if I didn't do it, then
Okay, you froze for 1 second. Did you freeze on yours also?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, it's totally fine. I don't know how to edit these things, so it's all good. So let me just ask you a question. As I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, so many people like get married and they have their idea of a career. Like, let's say what your career was, advertising in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And I'm sure your husband also thought you would stay the course. No?
Right. You know what? I think that initially when I was pregnant with my oldest, I was completely like, my plan was to be home for 6 weeks, 2 months, and then go back to work, because I thought to myself, like, I can't wait to like have this baby, have my own body back, just like, move on with my life and have a babysitter for him. Then once I have that baby, I just thought to myself, it's sort of like when you have a baby boy and they tell you like that in a week from now you have to like circumcise him. You're like, that's archaic. I'm not doing that. No way. No way. You're not touching my kid. There's no way you're doing that to him. No. So like, it was the same thing. I was like, I had this baby that I was like, you want me to leave him all day? You want me to go to Manhattan all day and leave him? So like, my husband, I think he sensed that like, I was like, not game. And he's like, listen, it's up to you. Like, if you don't want to go, if you want to stay and like figure things out, if you want to work, great. If you don't want to work right now, that's fine too. If you want to figure out what you want to do next, that's cool. But obviously it's a personal thing. I mean, some people are just like, literally like, they have to like, what's my plan? I have to have this baby. I have to go back to work. I have to go, teach, or I have to go work in my office, whatever it is. But thankfully that wasn't our story. So I was able to like, sort of like figure out like, what next? What's my next one?
Are you guys like the chill type, or you're just like a risk taker in general? Because like, I'm listening to you, I'm getting like anxiety. Like, if I'm
not a planner.
Okay, you seem like one. You seem like one. No?
I'm the opposite of type A. I'm a creative. Family's creative. My husband was definitely a planner, so it definitely very well for us. But I'm definitely not methodical in my thinking. I'm not methodical in the way I do things. I mean, even like when it came to baking and stuff like that, like everything was sort of like winging it, and I really had to learn by, it was trial by error. I really had to like do things wrong first and then realize, oh my God, like, yeah, that's why it didn't come out. And then I would do it again. And then that's how I learned everything. I'm not a rule follower, really. But then, sometimes sometimes you have to follow certain rules, like in baking.
It's baking,
you gotta measure things. You gotta weigh things. It doesn't come out right. Come out consistent if you don't.
Right.
So that's, something that you have to think about. Like, if you proof your yeast, you're going to know if you see bubbles, your challah is going to be good. If you decide like, I don't have any time to do that, and then the yeast isn't active, and then you throw out 5 pounds of flour because you didn't have 5 minutes to let your yeast proof. And that's like heartbreaking when you make challah dough and you're waiting for an hour or two and it doesn't rise. And you're like, what happened? And then you're like, oh, right, I didn't wait 5 minutes for the yeast proof. That's what happened, So it's like, that's life, it really, it's a metaphor for so much, you know what I mean? Like, you think, and then like, no, you don't.
No, you don't. So, okay, so that's funny though, because as a baker, I would think that you would be like a planner, somebody who weighs, somebody who measures, but
I'm not a baker by nature.
Right. So when I want to know, are you super confident? Like, is it that when something came out wrong, you'd be like, it's fine, I'll just try again?
No, if I would make something, oh my God, this is my personality. If I would make something and it would be a dud, it wouldn't come out, it would like ruin me. I'd be like, I can't do this again. I can't.
But you did it again. But
I would do it again. It's funny. But like in the beginning, I was like, I'm not cut out for this. Like I remember the first time. This is really funny when I started making sourdough, and I had to be like my friend had to hold my hand. Like I would FaceTime her like all hours of the day, and I'd be like, I don't know, does this look normal? And she'd be like, this looks good.
Yes.
I was teaching a friend that was local about sourdough, and she was very frustrated because she didn't know the eventually with challah making with sourdough.
sourdough making, there are certain things in your dough that you're going to recognize, like certain things that you're going to see, like, it's active right now, it's happy, or it has to be, resting. It's like getting to know a child and their personality. Like, it's the same kind of thing. It's like, you just start to eyeball it, and you know it without consulting a book, without reading a recipe. And I think that's like the difference between people that cook from a book, that read a recipe and just do it. When, it says, in a recipe that something calls for a teaspoon of salt, right? But you taste it and it's bland. Mm-hmm. Why is it bland? It's right. Because your palate's different than anybody else's.
Right.
So your salt level is going to be different. And
right.
So a recipe is a guideline, and that's really all it is.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that you are a person with a palate nobody else has. That mm-hmm. means that you're going to want more salt. So you're going to add a teaspoon and a half of salt instead of a teaspoon.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with it's with everything, with anything in life,
Mm-hmm.
So cooking is not just about following a recipe. You really need to feel it. You got to feel the food. You have to understand what you're doing. There's a couple of rules seasoning between every single, when you're sauteing things for a soup, you season every single thing that goes in there,
Mm-hmm.
There are certain things that you should know. But a lot of it is just sort of feeling your way through it. It's hard to articulate.
I get it. I totally get it. And I texted you about my sourdough. I've given up on sourdough because yeast is
Don't give up.
But I totally get it. When I first was making my sourdough, it was only by the third time, because I refused to buy the scale for some odd reason. I just kept buying. It doesn't work.
That's it for sure.
I know. So I already bought the Dutch oven, and then I bought the mason jar, and then now the scale, and everyone's like, you got to buy the scale. And I'm just like, oh God, another thing to buy. And then by the third time.
Yeah, a polder from Mason Savings for $10. It doesn't have to be a crazy scale. It could be any scale stuff. That is the only, and I'll just tell you right now, when I started baking, I did not have a scale, and my cakes would come out different. I used to make layer cakes, and if you make a layer cake, every layer has to be the same. How do you do that? You can't do that with metric. You can't do that with cups and tape. You have to do that with weighing.
Right.
You have to. So that's the only way you're going to get a consistent result, is weighing things. That's it.
Right. So by the third time, so my alarms were going off, and it said, feed the starter. And me and my husband are literally this is a baby that we're feeding. The alarms will go off, But anyways, I'll put my sourdough to the side. So anyways, when you started so you had your baby, was that when you started to cook because you were home?
Yes. David. That's when I started cooking.
That's David. Okay. So when you went at it, you started Kiss the Kosher Cook because everybody said your food's so good, or because you were?
It wasn't like that. It was because I would post dinner recipes every night. I'd go to grocery stores. People would take notice that I had this recipe posting page, and people were also interacting with me, and they were asking me questions. I had no idea why are they asking me? Why do they think I'm an expert? It's so funny how all of a sudden you're thought of as an expert if you open a fashion blog or a food blog, when really I'm just winging it. I have no idea what I'm doing, but people would ask me questions. And so I'd research this stuff, and then I would come back with answers, and it just fed this need in me to actually just learn more and more. And it became really my focus. It became my focus. Yeah.
So you had a knack for cooking, or you had a knack for, you were following recipes though?
Definitely. Yeah, I had a knack for cooking. And yeah, mostly followed recipes. I'm not the kind of person, my mother's not a recipe follower. She'll just dump things in a pot and just call it a day. I think recipes are there and cookbooks are there for you to I think they're amazing. And while I will definitely improvise and add things that doesn't call for, and also take away things that sometimes I don't have, and sub it out, I love cookbooks. I love the ideas that I get from them. Like I said before, it's a guideline. It doesn't mean that you have to, follow it to the letter, but they're there for a reason. And some of them are amazing, and some recipes became my kids' favorite things. So why wouldn't I look at cookbooks,
Right. So you look at the cookbook, get the inspiration, and then basically follow, go with it. That's your style.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So why did you start posting the recipes? Was that just because you were looking for camaraderie?
I started posting the recipes because I would take a picture of a dinner. People would be like, oh my God, what is that? And then I'd be like, oh, it's this from here, or it would be a website. I would get a lot of recipes from websites, from blogs, from, different bloggers, or from Rachel Ray, or where Martha Stewart, whatever, you know, and people would then make the stuff. And then I'd see them in the grocery store and they'd be like, oh my God, I made that thing that you made. I made your Aunt Susie's blueberry cobbler. Oh my God, it's my kid's favorite. And now like I'm known for certain things. Like my name is synonymous with letter cakes, with blueberry cobbler, with my pizza. Like there are things that when you say my name, they're like, oh, like I make her pizza, you know what I mean? And it's fun. It's fun. And like, I'm happy that I'm able to like empower other women to do something more than maybe they would have done before, you know?
Yeah. So when you started Kiss the Kosher Cook, you weren't expecting to become like famous?
Oh no.
It wasn't a goal.
No. I'm very like I said before, I'm a people person. I love communicating with people and just like sharing ideas and sharing my life with people. But I'm not somebody that was ever wanting to be in the limelight. I shy away from that. I never had a bat mitzvah. My wedding was like, I was like, please get me out of here immediately. Like I'm not comfortable being the main act at all. I don't like it.
So okay. So now you're like really, honestly, you're really famous in my opinion.
Okay.
How do you deal with that then? Like if that's not your personality, you got used to it?
Deal with it? I think I'm gracious about it. I think that like, it's funny when sometimes I'll be somewhere and some people will like look at me and I see them looking and I see what they're saying without even saying it. And then I'll get a message on my Instagram account like, oh, I saw you and oh my God, but I was so shy. I didn't want to say hi. I'm like, really? I'm a person. Like I do the same things as you do. Like I am deeply flawed and I mess up recipes all the time. And I am just like you. I'm just like you. And if you see me and you want to say something, it could be hi. It could be like, I just made your recipe. It was so good. Or something didn't come out right. Please let me know like what I can do different. Like I do this for engagement. I do it so people can like have an opportunity to like talk and, you know, share, you know? So.
Right.
While there are certain parts of it that I'm like so deeply shy about, like so not comfortable with, I've gotten used to it. And I feel like it maybe like really, it changed me as a person and enhanced my life in a lot of different ways, you know?
So when you were like, let's say like a teenager, like in your early 20s, you were more like
very shy.
Yeah. An introvert.
Yeah. I still am. I'm still am an introvert for sure. Yeah. There's one of those, I think those tests that you could take to like, you know, tell you who you are. I'm definitely an extroverted introvert.
Yeah. I think, well, do you feel like that's why it's so easy to like talk on Instagram? Because on Instagram, like you're just yourself.
People are always so surprised that I'm so able to like articulate myself in front of a camera. But for me, it's just a phone. And honestly, when I see on the bottom of my screen that 7,000 people watch me, I like laugh because I'm like, who the heck is watching this? Like, I'm not saying anything, you know what I mean? But like, you know what? I think people today, they're not watching as much TV. They're watching social media. They're watching fellow people in the same, they're watching fellow people that they can relate with, that are doing the same things as they're doing. And I think that's more of a interest for them rather than some, you know, scripted reality TV or some, you know, some show on some channel, you know what I mean? Because it doesn't resonate with them. Like my life and my story and my struggles, that is what resonates with people.
Right. So you recently, I think in the last year, right, started writing in the
year and a half. Yeah.
Year and a half. The 5 Jewish Times, right? Which I try to read every single week. And even if I don't get the paper, I look it up online. And I guess for a more serious note, like, you know, because we talked about it, like my mom died 2 years ago and your husband died.
It was a year and a half. It was almost 20 months. Yeah.
20 months. Wow.
20 months.
I'm so sorry. And
thank you.
Yeah. And like, it's crazy because like, obviously a mother and a husband are not the same thing, but like just reading what you write, it's like so touching. It's like so deeply...
It doesn't have to be the same loss to affect you.
Right.
And I always tell people, because they always feel bad even saying something about like, I can't compare my story to yours because I have a husband or a wife or a this or that. And I'm like, you know, loss is loss. And to you, that is the biggest thing that's ever going to happen. And you can't, of course you can't compare my story to yours, but it still hurts. It hurts you as much as it hurts me. It's just different. You know what I mean? And, listen, I am so thankful that I was able to turn it into something more than just being a widow.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yes, I do know on some level. But so what made you want to share like so openly?
I'm a big sharer. Obviously, we've definitely covered that at this point.
Yeah, I get it, because I also blog like I don't write for the paper, but I blog a little bit about like my mom's loss.
Right. So I felt very self-conscious when I would leave my house. I'd see people look at me and they would look away, and I knew what they were thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to set the record straight. I just wanted people to understand my thoughts, what I was going through, and just leave all that guesswork behind. I wanted to just be honest and upfront and candid about what happened to us. So there wouldn't have to be any rumors or any talk or any questions or anything. It was just me telling you exactly how it is. Like every day, the struggles my kids go through, the struggles that I go through, the things that we think about, the Yom Tov and the Shabbosim, and how everything has to change, you know. It's a very refreshing thing to be that honest with people. And I don't regret it at all.
I think that it helps everyone. Like, I think that I actually heard you on another podcast. I think it was Matana.
Yeah, that was my first one.
Yeah. And you said something like maybe your brand has become even more popular now because, did you say that? Because people
are compelled to watch because I think they thought that I was going to like completely just like lose it.
Right.
I think that they thought that I would just like fall apart. Obviously they don't know me very well if they think that.
I mean, just serious, like honestly, when you just said that I wanted my story to be more than me becoming a widow, right?
Yeah.
Right. Like, you obviously you never wanted that to happen to you.
Of course not.
But you, like what you just said before about like you being an introvert and then this changing you, right? Mm-hmm. You talk a lot about that in your writing, that if you could change the past, obviously your husband would be here with you.
Yes.
But you've utilized this horrible loss to help other people. I took
whatever I was given, whatever was handed to me, because obviously this stuff was not written. Obviously, this is all written. This is all plans. Right. We don't know about it. We think we know. We think we know how life is going to be. We think we know that we'll be around to raise our children and to see our grandchildren and to, you know, redecorate our house and to go on vacations and all this stuff. We have no idea. Right. We have no idea. So things in life were handed to me. I didn't want to take them, but I was sort of forced to, you know.
Right.
And so my response was like, okay, let's do something with this. Let's do something useful with it. Let's make it meaningful instead of just a story about a husband dying too soon and leaving his wife and 5 children. Let's spin it into something really positive, you know?
I don't see you.
Hold on 1 second. You see me now?
Yeah, I see.
Yeah. So let's change this whole narrative and like, let's change like the ending that you think it's going to be and make it something better, make it something different, you know, make it something useful for people.
Did you read the book on grief and grieving by David Kessler?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So he wrote that book with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. They're like grief experts.
Okay.
They're like the grief experts.
They're the guru griefs, the grief's not guru.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
And so Elizabeth Kubler-Ross died while they were writing that book. She was very ill, like throughout her whole life. She talks a lot about grief. But after that, he lost his teenage child, or his 20-year-old child. And he said, for all the years that I was counseling parents on losing a child, I knew nothing. I heard him talk about this on Brene Brown's podcast, and he said, I love
Brene.
Yeah, I love her. So he's like, I have to add a sixth stage of grieving, because there's 5 stages, right?
Sure, I know the 5 stages. Yeah,
I'm sure you know the 5 stages, right?
Oh yeah, very familiar.
Yeah, so he says I have to add a 6th stage, making meaning. And
big time.
Yeah, and I thought that's exactly what I thought of when you said that. But he said, of course, I would never, ever want to make meaning versus having my child. That would never be a choice. But it felt so empty without that last stage. And I, after I heard that, I was like, I need to get that book,
There is no making a choice.
Right.
There is no choice, right?
Right.
The only choice that you have is how you're going to change your reaction, and how you're going to change the narrative of what your life is supposed to be to other people. They're going to assume things about you now. They're going to assume she loses her husband. She's a single mother with 5 children that are young. She's going to be harried. She's going to be stressed. She's going to be crying. She's going to be in a perpetual bad mood. She's going to be, hiding away in her house. She's going to be this and that. And then you're like, you know what? No, I'm not willing to do that. I'm still here, and I'm going to change. That's all you have to do is make a decision.
So how do you do that?
You start really listing, and that's really how the writing began. I started journaling. You just start listing things in your life that are still here that you're grateful for. And it could be anything. It could be the smallest thing. Not that this is small, but in the beginning, when my husband died, literally from one day to the next, and like there was no illness and there was no anything, I thought to myself in the morning when I wake up, oh my God, I have another day. I woke up. I went to sleep, and for a long time, and even sometimes today, I have anxiety before I go to sleep, because I think to myself, I don't know.
Right.
I might not wake up. I have no idea.
Right.
So you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh my God, thank God, like, wow, and it could be kids sleeping through the night. It could be them coming in from school and they're happy, and their social lives are, back in where they were before, because after something like this happens, they're definitely treated differently. Like I was treated differently. Nobody asked for this. We didn't ask for this. We want to be people. We want to be the same people we were before. We want to be valued as the same people that we had, the gifts that we had, the reason that we're friends with the friends that we are friends with is because of the things that we have that they're attracted to. And I wanted the same things as always. Like I wanted to be the same person. Right. My kids wanted to be kids, Right. So they're social, they're inclusive, they're included. I don't know. It could be little things, I'm thankful that like, even though this happens and he doesn't come home anymore, a lot of my day looks the same still, and that's thanks to the fact that he was always working and he was never around. So I can always sort of count on little things in my life that remained the same. And that made me like, oh my God, like this feels familiar to me. Like I can do this because it's still here. Like it's still the same. I thought when it first happened in the first few days, I was like, I don't know if I can continue living. I don't know if I can live this life. I don't know if is my house going to fall apart? I don't know how to pay bills. I don't know how to use the HVAC system. I don't know how to use Shabbos mode on my oven. I don't know how to, nothing. Like there were things that he did. He did certain things. He did man things, Right. I didn't take out garbage, know?
Right.
So I don't know. You start learning, you start familiarizing yourself and refamiliarizing yourself with things that you always had. And then you just like start like really becoming grateful for like the things that you never even thought you'd have to have gratitude for. And that like does something to your mind, it just sort of like, it just like instills this like sense of like, I don't know, just appreciation for like everything, for everything. And I think that a huge inspiration for me in the beginning about this whole mind changing thing was a book called The Choice.
Yeah, I love that book.
Yeah. So when I read that and I read her message, which I really think came from what's his face from Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl. Yeah. It's a very, very heavy book.
I have his
very
book
condensed.
Right here. Yeah.
Right. It's a very heavy book. I like hers better because it's a little bit more flowery. It's a little bit more like feminine. It's a little bit more, you know, spiritual, even though she's not religious, you know.
Beautiful. It's a beautiful book.
She just conveys that message, you know, in her book, throughout the book, that the only thing that you have power over is your own mind and your decision to be something different than people think you should be, or you're supposed to be according to who decides that? Who decides you're supposed to be a certain way? After your mother dies suddenly, or after my husband dies suddenly, or after somebody loses a child, or after, you know, you're, you know, single and you're not married and you don't know what's going to be. Who decides this stuff?
Right.
You decide.
Right.
It's only you. You set that tone. It's your decision.
Your layers sort of like get stripped away.
Yeah, for sure. Everything is like way more
real,
meaningful, enhanced, powerful. You know, there isn't a lot of like fluff anymore.
Right. Shields, like you can't. Yeah.
It's all gone. You get to the root and that's it. And that's really all that matters, you know? I mean, people always, every day, interact with each other with so much protective gear. And it's just not necessary.
Right.
And they do it to save themselves. They do it to protect themselves. They do it because they don't want to be vulnerable and they don't want to be raw and real and open. And don't they realize that there's only one chance? You have one chance.
Right.
Don't you want to be the person you're meant to be? Isn't that all that matters?
Yeah, I think loss sort of does that to you.
Oh my God, it totally shakes you. Mm-hmm. It shakes you and it puts everything into perspective. And then you realize, what am I doing? Why do I care what she thinks? Why do I care if they're going to, you know, not understand what I'm writing? Or they're not going to understand or appreciate that I'm showing everybody how sad I am sometimes and how sometimes I'm really happy, you know, and I'm just being a person, you know, and I'm not shying away from my feelings and it's all going to be there. And you could look away if you want. That's fine. I'm not doing it for you.
Right.
You know?
And you think that you had that level of openness before your husband died?
No. Certainly not. Certainly not. No.
Yeah.
No, definitely not.
It does. I really, you kind of transported me back to a memory. If you're okay with me sharing it.
Of course.
Yeah. But so I told you this, but my mom died very suddenly. It wasn't one day to the next, but it was almost. She was diagnosed with cancer in August and she died in September at 56. And it was interesting because when you said, you know, grateful for things that you didn't realize you had, I was very pregnant with my third child, right? And I had him. I had him 3 days after she died. And I mean, obviously it was hormonal anyways, but I remember being I was at my parents' house. We went to be with my family, and just in case, you know, we didn't think she was really going to die. And
of course.
Right. And I remember I'm one of 9, all my siblings were there. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I love my siblings so much. I never even realized, like, I remember I came down I went into my parents' room and my mom like actually decorated their room really cute. She was not so decorative until we all grew up. So it was like a surprising.
Yeah. Thing. Well, 9 kids.
Right.
Do that to you.
Yeah. And she had pictures all over her wall and she had this cute little thing. She was into like phrases that said, grow old with me, the best is yet to be, like with my father. And I just couldn't control myself. I'm heaving, I'm crying. And my brother's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I love my brother so much. Like, I was like, you know, I was really thinking my mother-in-law, like my siblings-in-law, like I have so many people in my life that I never even realized how much I love people, which I wish I knew, you know, before she got so sick. But even a mother, like you don't realize how much you love a mother. Like it's, and then, yeah, there's like this, some people have told me, like, I can't believe how open you are. Like, I mean, I'm not like famous, and maybe like 2 people read
You
my
don't have to
blog.
be famous to be open.
But I'm saying more people are reading what you're writing. You know what I'm saying? Thousands and thousands. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm open because I have feelings, and so do you. Okay. Like you also
And also
do.
you have life experiences that
Right.
enable you to share these things. And it's something that, you know, could really help people. It can
Right.
help people.
Right.
You know?
Right. And you know what else? Like loss and grief doesn't just come because you lose a person.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It can be so many things.
Right. Like grieving an expectation, or grieving,
of course,
you know, people who never lost anyone but struggle with infertility. They're
absolutely.
grieving.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Right.
For sure. Yeah. For sure.
So what is it? Like, what is, like, when you say that you're trying to make meaning out of this experience, what has been the most meaningful thing for you?
I think the most meaningful thing for me out of this whole, I mean, honestly, I don't want to spin it like me, but first of all, I discovered this love for writing, which I think is like spectacular, and it's such a great tool to have. And I'm so thankful for it. You know, it's
You never had that? You never had
I never wrote.
No?
I never wrote. I couldn't write a report.
Really?
No, my father did.
Uh-huh.
I couldn't write anything. I literally started writing when this happened. And my father, you know,
talented. You are so talented.
Thank you. Well, I think it's really because like DNA, like my grandfather was a journalist. My father was a journalist. Like it has to sort of seep down. It doesn't really have to, but
well, and you're creative.
Chances are it does. But I never tapped into it. I never had to, because I lived in the shallow end of life. And I was very happy to not have to be treading water, you know? I had my feet like on the ground. I was in a very safe manner. I was very appreciative. I was very happy with my life. Sometimes I was bored. Sometimes things were predictable. Most times things were predictable. And I would ask that back in a second. If I had the power to do that, if you had a superpower, if I could do that, I would do that for sure. And not have to guess every day when there's something new that happens in my life, like how I'm going to do it, what I'm going to do. That is the most disconcerting, scary thing for an adult to have to do, you know? So the journaling came about because of his death. And it was just a great, I think I might have read it actually in a book by Elizabeth, you know, Eat, Pray, Love.
Oh, yeah. Elizabeth Gilbert. Yeah.
Gilbert. Yeah. She actually said after writing Eat, Pray, Love, she felt like there was nothing that she could do to measure up in the eyes of other people. Right. Not in herself, because there were things that she wrote after that that she thought were just as good, but wasn't as well received by the masses. Because it wasn't
a really good book called Big Magic, by the way.
That's the book I'm talking about.
Oh, that's what you're talking about. Okay, yeah.
Big Magic, and she writes about her feelings of inferiority because of other people and how they feel about her writing and how it wouldn't measure up to a book that became a movie with Julia Roberts. And that is our gauge. That's what we hold, you know, as like you know, and it's not like that. It should be like that.
No, it shouldn't.
So she practices writing like practices anything that you want to be good at. You practice piano, you practice cooking and baking, you practice writing. It's honing your skill. You know what I mean? So I started writing just to like make sure my feelings were getting out, besides the one time a week of therapy, which at the point when I lost him, it wasn't enough, because I was like, I was like a faucet. Like I wasn't even talking during therapy. I would cry the whole time. Like I couldn't even like articulate myself. So like, what was I doing? I was crying. I could have had my friend sit there and I cried to her instead, but I was paying a lot of money to cry to somebody. And then at the end of it, I was like, but I still have what to say. Like,
right.
I don't, you know, so
Right.
then I started writing. And I started sending it to my father. I'm not really sure what prompted me to send it. And then he basically was like, could I put this in the paper? And I was like, I don't know if this is like newspaper worthy stuff. I think it's just me like ranting,
Right.
you know? And he was like, let me try. Let me see what happens, you know? So he started doing it. And, at first it wasn't a regular thing. It was every couple of weeks. It was really whenever I wanted to. And I would send it to him and he'd read it over and he'd be like, he'd tell me, you know, this and that. And then all of a sudden it became like a weekly thing. And like maybe the cooking or the baking or anything else that like I sort of incorporated into my life, it became so much bigger and more meaningful than I ever intended it to be. Like it really became a way of emptying myself out, you know, like, just like, I don't know. It became like something, it's such a great tool, you know? And I every week to this day, every week I think to myself, what am I going to write about? And then all of a sudden it's actually something called flow.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden I have
get
pages of writing.
Wow.
And I have no idea where it came from.
Wow.
And I'm not even aware of like, and I write things in one shot, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that really at this point, it's not just about his loss, though, you know, that's always going to be like threaded, like weaved into my stuff.
Right.
I think at this point, I'm actually like beginning to like incorporate like my dating life and my social life and my kids growing up, you know, without him here. And just so much more than just like, oh, he died. We love him. We miss him.
Right.
Blah, blah.
Oh,
you
it's
know?
not just that. No, it's not. It's you're really brought on the journey of like loss and grief and love and healing and moving forward and all the things that you were talking about, like making a choice that this is really horrible, but I could do this and we could make meaning out of this and we can move forward.
Yeah. Move forward is huge.
Right.
I see people, I was part of a WhatsApp of a group of women who lost their spouses. And for a while I would literally, it was like a bad car accident. And I would like read the stuff over and I'd be like, this is not good for me. I can't do this anymore. Right. Because they were all remaining in the same place, talking about how much they miss their husbands, how much their life has changed, how much they resent this new life, and I thought to myself, I need to read inspiration. I need to read something that inspires me and makes me want to like, I want to see somebody that has lived my life in their life and has lost their spouse or has lost somebody in their life that was important and did something great with that. And, you know, met somebody new and got remarried and started a new life and did things other than mourn the loss of somebody.
Right.
There has to be more. There has to be a reason I'm here still.
What do you, I hope it's okay to ask, but what do you think your husband would say if he like saw you now, like writing and being so out
my God,
there?
He would be completely, first of all, he'd be like, oh my God, you're writing about me? Like, I couldn't even have a picture of his hand cutting a steak in an Instagram post. He would be like so upset. I'd have to delete it. He'd be like, Malkie, you have to respect my privacy. Like, I'm not okay with this, you know? And I was always very respectful, but like one time his uncle, like basically like texted a screenshot of his arm cutting steak. And I was like, Howie, you're horrible. Why would you do that? You know, like he was so sensitive. And God, if I was writing my business in the newspaper, oh my God, you know, but I sort of say to him every day, I'm like, hey, well, like, listen, I'm here, you're there.
Yeah.
All bets are off. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I get that. Cause my mom would be like, why, Gila? Why does everyone have to know about what? Yeah. Well, come on. And I'd be like, well, you're dead. So
you left.
Right. Yeah.
I know it wasn't your choice, but I'm sorry. I had to pick up the pieces and I have to deal with this right now. So you're gonna have to just like sit back and watch because this is going down, you know?
Yeah. But besides for that, like your openness and your ability to write, what would he say?
I think he'd be surprised. I do. But you know, it's so funny. I sort of like, I've really just evolved into somebody that like will be like these cakes, you know, like he would open the fridge at the end of the day, like thinking like, I don't know, maybe he wouldn't realize dinner was in the oven, blah, blah, blah. So he'd open and he'd see this big cardboard, you know, board, you know, with a huge 25 in my fridge. He'd be like, he's like, why are you doing this? Like, he's like, it's beautiful, but why? And I'd be like, I just love the feeling of giving this to somebody. I love the feeling of them picking it up and seeing it and thinking it's amazing. It's not about feeding people. I mean, I do love feeding people. That's definitely something, but I just love to like have a gift that could change something, like change something in somebody's life, make them happy. It's an amazing response. It's such a huge responsibility. And it's such a, I don't think it's something that can be wasted. You know, if you have something that's God-given, like you need to use it. You know? Yeah.
So he what did he think of your fame? Because you were already famous.
Oh, he thought it was like very silly. He was like, this is cute. Yeah. Cause you know, he did like really important work, you know, like he thought like the stuff that I kept busy with, like, listen, he wasn't, okay. He was like, as talkative as I am, he was quiet, you know? He definitely had a presence about him, and he ran a successful business and, you know, was in charge of a lot of different, you know, moving parts, and he was very good at what he did. But he was a quieter, he just went about things in a quieter manner. And I am like, blah, 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 you know, we're so different, but like also very alike. So it was interesting. I hope he'd be proud.
I'm sure he's very proud.
I hope he would be like, you know what, Malkie, I totally expected you to completely fall apart. I'm so impressed that you haven't, you know? Right.
Totally. I mean, you're an inspiration to me and so many people every single day. And I've told you that when I read your, I get the newspaper to read your article, and I read it, I sit there and I cry and I relate. And you know what else I was thinking when you said that you sat in the therapist's office just crying? I've learned so much about just other people witnessing your pain and letting, you know, before my mom died, if somebody was crying in front of me, I would leave the room or change the couldn't handle it. And now it's like, it's okay to cry.
Yeah, I frequent Shiva homes. I was always very awkward. I was always very uncomfortable. I didn't know how to like talk to people. I didn't know what to say to them. But now that is like it's horrible to say. It can't be my favorite pastime, but it's something that I'm very comfortable doing because I know I can help them like nobody else.
Right.
I know how they feel, and I know what to do to make things progress in a good manner, to make it, you know, and I take it on, you know. It's not like I say, well, this is their loss, I already did my time, I'm not, you know. I call them and I talk to them and I tell them, like, I was there last year. It's a relatively short time, you know, for what happened. Look at me, look what I'm doing. Look at what I'm doing. Look at my kids. Look at how great they're doing. Look at the fact that people no longer look at me and see, oh, she's a widow and her husband died tragically when she was 38 and she had 5 kids and she had a baby. They say, oh, Malkie, right, she has those cakes and she writes those articles. Yeah. So make it more, make it meaningful, you know. Be better.
Right.
Be better.
I'm not sure everybody has that like strength like you.
You know what? You're right.
It's a superpower. Right. It's a superpower you didn't ask for, but you use.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's incredible.
I'm very stubborn. It was always my personality. That didn't change. I've always been very stubborn. If somebody says like, you can't do it, I'm like, hell yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. Watch me. Yeah.
Watch me. You know? So,
I have so many questions. I'm going to let you go soon, but how do your kids feel about you being open? Do they read the articles?
So it's funny because I actually never really thought about it, which is a terrible thing to say, but it's really the truth. So I was like, this is my loss. This is my pain. This is my journey. Like, you can't tell me what to do. And actually my son's therapist brought it up recently when I wrote something, and I think I said something about David reacting a certain way. And I don't even think David reads my articles. Maybe his friend had mentioned it. I don't even know. I'm sure friends will say that, oh, my mother said that, you know, your mother wrote this thing and blah, blah, blah. And David's definitely more like Maishi, and like in terms of privacy, he's like, please don't air our dirty laundry. And then I'm like, babe, I made you. Don't tell me what to do.
Right.
You know? You know how you like try to one up somebody, like
yeah,
you're like,
yeah.
please. And I want to respect what he has to say.
Right.
He's a 13-year-old boy, and I
Right.
value his opinion, and I want to take him. I want to hear what he has to say, and like be sensitive to, you know, his needs and what his comfort level is. I don't think I crossed the line. I don't think I overstep. Personally, I don't think I overstep and share too much. And you know, I now will run things by him. I'll tell him I'm writing something that has your name in it, or it talks about like the way you know, it's his bar mitzvah article, and I'll show it to him before I put it out, you know, and tell him like, I really want your opinion. Like, I want you to tell me what you think, you know. And since he now has the choice of being more, since he feels like he has a say, you know, in like whether or not I submit it, which I always do, because he's always like, it's great, it's fine. I don't even think he reads it. That's the truth. He just wants to have, he wants that he wants to be treated like a person that has that say, you know, that, you know, that's it. He just needs that. So I think honestly, and my other kids are always like, literally every time they like do something in the kitchen, they're like, "Ma, you want to Instagram this?" I'm like, "No, it's not really good content. Sorry." But I'll like make believe I'm doing it. I'll put my camera up and I'll video it, and then I'll play it back for them. And I'm like, "This is not going on my story," you know. But like, it's cute because I think they're proud. Like, I think they enjoy it, you know, like their mom is cool, you know. So
you're very cool, and they should be very proud.
Thank you.
And I will say also, when I met you, I'm gonna let you go, but when I met you with Naomi Nachman, I was like, she is so nice. Like, you know, you meet these like famous people, whatever, and I'm like, she's just so nice, so considerate and normal, and
I'm so normal and so nice, because let me tell you something. Everybody, like I said before, everybody does the same things, have the same bodily functions as everybody else. They don't want to admit to it, but they do. And I think the things that matter in life, the things that count, the things that people are going to like remember you for, is how you treat other people. You know, nobody is better than anybody else. Like, nobody, you know, everybody is to be treated with respect and consideration. And there's no reason why you can't stop for every person that says something to you and say, "Thank you so much for your feedback," or "I really appreciate that you read that, and I really appreciate your feedback, and I appreciate you even saying something to me, and like, you know, stopping me and telling me that you care, you know, that means so much to me." Everybody is somebody. Everybody, just like you are and I am. Everybody is somebody. Everybody has different gifts to give. Just because some of them are a little bit more out there than others doesn't mean that they're not there, you know?
Yeah. So now I'm in awe, and and I really want to thank you for coming on. Where can people find you?
Oh my God, where can they find me? Where can't they find me?
Well, make your pitch.
What?
Make your pitch. Kiss the Kosher Cook.
Kiss the Kosher Cook on Instagram and Facebook. I post my Facebook, my personal page. I post my articles every week. Malkie Hirsch. I write in the paper, so it's there I think it comes out every Wednesday night, so it's Thursday distribution. And any podcast, anybody that has a podcast that wants to be on.
You have your own podcast. You have people could hire you to do anything.
True. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But like, that's all like Instagram. If you go on my Instagram page, people sometimes will ask me like, "What did you do today?" And I'm like, "Can you just go back to my story? I don't remember what I did today."
Right. I get it. I actually get it now that like I started posting a little bit of recipes. People will ask me, I'll be like, "You just like look on my Instagram because it's there. It's easier."
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much for coming on. It was like a real pleasure, and
thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to listen back. This is good. This is a good one.
Yeah, it was awesome. I loved having you. I love reading you. I think you are a real inspiration. I'm not just saying that. I really
thank you so much.
I hold your words very deep to my, very, very close to my heart. So thank you for helping me heal. Okay, have a great day.
You too.
Thank you. Bye.